Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise for the arrival of the Honorable Senate President and the Senators of the Republic of the Philippines.
The 33rd session of the Senate in the 3rd regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. The chamber will be led in prayer by Senator Risa Ontiveros.
From Marian Williamson's Illuminata. Dear God, may this house be a sacred dwelling for those who work here. May those who visit feel the peace we have received from you. May darkness not enter. May the light of God shield this house from harm. May the angels bring their peace here and use our home as a haven of light. May all grow strong in this place of healing, our sanctuary from the loudness of the world. May it so be used by you forever. Amen.
The session is suspended. Session is resumed. The Secretary will call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 12 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, before we take up other matters, we'd like to just recognize with us today in the gallery our Governor of Palawan, Governor Jose Chavez Alvarez, together with the mayors of Nara, Palawan, Mayor Lucena de Maala, and Mayor Mary Jean Feliciano of Brooks Point, Palawan. We also have with us Secretary Duque of the Department of Health, together with his undersecretaries. We just approved their budget on committee level, Mr. President, ready for plenary deliberations. We also have with us, Mr. President, 11 Osamis clergy members headed by, from Osami City, clergy members headed by Father Marvin Osmeña. They're here with us today, Mr. President. And I move that we dispense, Mr. President, the reading of the journal of the 32nd session, Monday, November 12, 2018, and consider the same as approved. I so move.
Any objections? Chair is none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference business.
The Secretary will... the session is suspended for a minute. Okay lang. Kukontrol na yan. Session is resumed. The Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business. Message of the President of the Philippines. Letter of President Rodrigo R. Duterte dated 30 October 2018, vetoing and returning without his signature the enrolled House Number 5554 entitled An Act Declaring December 9 of every year a special working holiday in the province of Dinagat Islands in commemoration of the birth anniversary of Ruben Edera Ecleo Sr. pursuant to Section 27(1), Article 6 of the Constitution. While due recognition is given to Ruben Edera Ecleo Sr.'s prominence in the province of Dinagat Islands, proper parameters must be observed in the declaration of special holidays. In this regard, it bears noting that, according to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, there is a lack of independent scholarly studies on the life of the proposed honoree, which is a usual requirement for declaring holidays anchored on events of historical significance.
Referred to the Committee on Local Government.
Bills on first reading. Senate Number 2084 entitled An Act Providing for Medical Parole to Qualified Prisoners and Setting Rules on the Grant thereof, introduced by Senator Laila M. De Lima.
Referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
Senate Number 2085 entitled An Act Establishing a Consumer Product Safety Standard for Each Durable Infant or Toddler Product, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
Referred to the Committees on Trade, Women, and Finance.
Senate Number 2086 entitled An Act Strengthening the Regulation of Health Facilities and Services in the Philippines, repealing for the purpose Republic Act Number 4226, otherwise known as the Hospital Licensure Act, and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
Referred to the Committees on Health and Finance.
Resolutions. PS Resolution Number 929 entitled Resolution Directing the Appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the recent massacre in Sagay, Negros Occidental with the end in view of addressing social injustice among farmers, promoting genuine rural development and agrarian reform to assure that justice will be served, but at the same time address the plight of farmers with respect to agrarian reform, introduced by Senators De Lima, Drilon, Aquino IV, Ontiveros, Pangilinan, and Trillanes IV.
Referred to the Committees on Public Order and Agrarian Reform.
PS Resolution Number 930 entitled Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the reported cases of sexual violence and abuses allegedly perpetrated by law enforcers against women and children who are relatives of detainees, with the end in view of proposing legislative measures to ensure full protection, including legal remedies for affected women and children, introduced by Senator Laila M. De Lima.
Referred to the Committees on Women and Public Order.
PS Resolution Number 931 entitled Resolution Calling for an Investigation in Aid of Legislation into Alleged Extrajudicial Killings in Antique and Socsargen, introduced by Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Referred to the Committees on Justice and Public Order.
PS Resolution Number 932 entitled Resolution Directing the Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on allegations of sexual harassment of candidates during the 2018 Miss Earth pageant and the circumstances that enabled the same, with the end in view of creating policies towards a Philippines that is a safe space for all, introduced by Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Referred to the Committee on Women.
PS Resolution Number 933 entitled Resolution Directing the Committee on Science and Technology to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the state of the telecommunications industry and on the government's comprehensive strategy for improving internet access, quality, and affordability in the country, introduced by Senators Pangilinan and De Lima.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
PS Resolution Number 934 entitled Resolution Urging the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Food to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the total ban against the use of the modified Danish sign or hulbot method of fishing, resulting to fish shortage in the domestic market, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
To the Committee on Agriculture.
PS Resolution Number 935 entitled Resolution Urging the Appropriate Senate Committee to look into the conduct a transparency assessment in aid of legislation on the state policies to preserve and protect important national heritage, cultural properties, and significant Philippine landmarks, taking into consideration the reported construction of 31-floor condominium near a national treasure such as the San Sebastian Church, with the end in view of providing clarity in the development policy of the country, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Education and Urban Planning.
PS Resolution Number 936 entitled Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Education, Arts and Culture to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the feasibility of designing a program and corresponding incentives for service-oriented public and private school teachers, private corporations, as well as civic-minded citizens and students to provide voluntary teaching services to out-of-school youth and to integrate the same into the alternative learning system established under Republic Act Number 9155, otherwise known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
To the Committee on Education and the Committee on Youth.
PS Resolution Number 937 entitled Resolution Directing the Appropriate Senate Committees to conduct a comprehensive study on the need to cut government spending to ease price pressures and temper inflation with the end in view of recommending measures to manage economic risks and boost consumer confidence, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
To the Committees on Finance and Economic Affairs.
PS Resolution Number 938 entitled Resolution Urging the Senate Committee on Public Services to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the existing procedures and/or protocols in the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board amidst reports of alleged railroading and/or irregularities leading to issuances by the board with the end goals of formulating measures to uphold the right of pertinent stakeholders to be heard, to ensure that relevant recommendations, opinions, and analysis of involved government agencies be judiciously considered, and to ultimately ensure that the best interests of the riding public be served, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
To the Committee on Public Services. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1297. This is the new Central Bank Act, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
The status, Mr. President, is yesterday we closed the period of amendments without prejudice to those who may still file for amendments today, to just come up with a clean copy. And we'd like to recognize, Mr. President, the sponsor, Senator Francis Chis Escudero, for a few more amendments.
Senator Francis Escudero is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. May we propose the following amendments? On page 2, line 6, after the period following the word board, delete the phrase, the payment of any unpaid subscription and/or increase in capitalization shall be automatically appropriated in the Annual General Appropriations Act, found on line 6 up to part of line 10. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Amendment is adopted.
On page 48, line 12, after the word from, delete the phrase the national government.
38.
48, Mr. President.
48.
On page 48, line 12, after the word from, delete the phrase the national government, colon, and in lieu thereof, insert the following. Its governmental functions, comma, specifically, colon. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Amendment is adopted.
Finally, Mr. President, still on page 48, line 17, after the word functions and the comma, delete the word monetary, and in lieu thereof, insert the word money. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none.
No
Amendment is
further
adopted.
amendments, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
With that, Mr. President, there being no other members to propose amendments, we close the period of amendments. Close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments is hereby closed.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1297. I so move.
Any objection? There being none, Senate Bill 1297 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, may I just ask for a 1-minute suspension?
Session is suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session is resumed.
Yes, Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on Senate Bill number 2059. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, consideration of the measure is in order.
With the permission of the body, this is the tax amnesty measure. We'd like to recognize the sponsor, Senator Sonny Angara, the chairperson of the Committee on Ways and Means, and to interpolate or ask a few questions is Senator Frank Drilon. I so move, sir.
The sponsor, Senator Sonny Angara, is recognized, and to interpolate, the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Relon. One minute suspension.
Yes, may we ask for 1 minute suspension? Finance. Ready to resume, Mr. President? Once again, to recognize
Yes,
Senator Angara.
session is resumed. We have recognized Senator Sonny Angara and the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Relon.
Mr. President, none of our members would like to interpolate the sponsor, so we'd like to move to close the period of interpolation and proceed towards the period of amendments.
While Senator Angara is on the floor and recognized, there is a motion to terminate the period of interpolation. Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Senator Angara, Mr. President, would like to interpose.
Yes, he has the floor. We are opening the period of amendments.
That's correct, Mr. President. We move to open the period of amendments.
Period of amendments is open.
I think Senator Drilon has some proposed amendments, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of the sponsor, I propose our amendment starting on page 7.
Yes, we're willing to consider, Mr. President.
Page 7, Your Honor.
What line, Mr. President?
Yeah, line 13. Mr. President, line 13. We place a period after the word correct. Repeat on line 13 on page 7, place a period after correct, and delete the rest of the paragraph until line 18, ending with the word under declaration.
I will accept, Mr. President.
Any objection? The amendment is adopted.
The next amendment, Mr. President, is on page 10, starting with line 6, which is section 23. We propose to delete line 6, page 10, the whole of page 11, the whole of page 12, and up to page 13, up to line 7. We repeat, we propose to delete from pages 10 to 13, the whole, including the title, exchange of information. This is actually on line 5. So exchange of information start on line 5 on page 10, up to line 7 on page 13, Mr. President.
In other words, you are deleting the entire Title 5.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. President, just subject to renumbering of the bill.
And that's my next motion, sir.
Yes, any objection? Chair hears none. Amendment is adopted.
With that, Mr. President, as a matter of style, we move to renumber the sections accordingly in view of the approval of the amendments we proposed.
The numbers shall be renumbered accordingly.
We have no more amendments, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I conferred as well with the sponsor. There are no amendments as well in the committee. We move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendment is closed.
With that, Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading, Senate Bill number 2059. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, Senate Bill 2059 is approved on second reading.
Congratulations are in order to the sponsor and to our colleagues. Mr. President, we'd like to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of measure to suspend.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader and Minority Leader.
And Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1998.
Any objection? There being none, Senate Bill 1998's consideration is in order.
Mr. President, this is the rice tarification measure. We'd like to recognize the sponsor, Senator Cynthia Villar, Mr. President. We are in the
Chairman,
period of amendments.
Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture, Senator Villar is recognized. We are in the period of amendment.
I believe, Mr. President, Senator Ralph Recto would like to propose some amendments.
The President Pro Temp, Senator Ralph Recto, is recognized. One minute suspension.
Ano ba majority pag
Kulang yung blanco dun sa kanya.
Session is resumed. For the record, we are using the amended copy as of October 10, 2018.
Yan ba yun?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Would the distinguished lady accept some proposed amendments to Senate Bill number 1998?
Mr. President, we want to hear the amendment before we decide if we want to accept it
Yes,
or
thank you.
not. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let us start, Mr. President, on page 1. On page 1, line 1, insert a new section 1 to read as follows. Section 1, the title of Republic Act RA 8178 as amended is hereby amended to read as follows. An act replacing quantitative import restrictions on agricultural products with tariffs, creating the Agriculture Competitiveness Enhancement Fund and for other purposes.
Hindi naman to agriculture. Mr. President, we are talking of the rice,
That is
the
correct.
rice fund, the tariff on rice.
Correct.
And then the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. We are not talking about the agriculture or the ASEF.
Mr. President, we are amending Republic Act 8178, which talks about the quantitative import restrictions on agricultural products and the Agriculture Competitiveness Enhancement Fund and for other purposes. And for this purpose, we're also creating the Rice Enhancement
Yeah,
Fund.
that's correct.
Okay, so would the gentle lady accept the amendment as...
Yeah, we are accepting that amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted.
And with regard to style, Mr. President, as an omnibus amendment, all mentions thereafter of the phrase Republic Act in the bill shall be replaced by an acronym RA.
Any objection? What does the sponsor say?
We accept the amendment.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On page 1, line 1, renumber section 1 as section 2.
Renumbering, any objection? There being none,
Okay ba yan?
amendment.
On the same page, lines 1 to 4, after the word amended, delete the comma and the
Anong
phrase
page?
otherwise known as an act replacing quantitative import restrictions on agricultural products except rice with tariffs, creating the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund and for other purposes. This is just for style, Mr. President.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept the amendment.
Accepted. Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 4, insert the word further between the words hereby and amended and delete the comma after the word amended.
Ngayon, okay ba yan?
Again, between hereby and amended, what is the word?
Yeah, on the same page, line 4, insert the word further
Further, hereby further amended.
between the words hereby and amended and delete the comma after the word amended.
What does the sponsor say?
Okay, we accept the amendment.
Accepted. Any objection? The chair hears none. Amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 6, insert a period after the word policy.
Which one?
On the
Line
same,
6.
yes, insert a period after the word policy.
We accept the amendment.
Declaration of policy.
We
Period.
accept the amendment.
Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On page 2, line 1, renumber section 2 as section 3.
We
Any-
accept the amendment.
Any objection? Adopted.
On the same line, delete the comma after the word amended and insert the word further between the words hereby and amended.
We accept the amendment.
Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 4, insert a dash between the period and the word the.
We accept the amendment.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
On the same page, line 11, enclose the phrase Customs Modernization and Tariff Act in quotation marks.
We accept the amendment.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 17, after the word from, insert the phrase Association of Southeast Asian Nations.
We accept the
Association
amendment.
of
Southeast Asian Nations.
and continue with ASEAN member states. Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
On the same line, enclose the acronym ASEAN in parentheses.
Accepted.
Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 25, insert a dash between the acronym ATIGA and the word Philippines.
Accepted.
Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On page 3, lines 18 to 19, delete the phrase Customs Modernization and Tariff Act and the parentheses on the acronym CMTA.
Okay. Accepted.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 21, delete the letter S on the word refers.
Accepted.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 22, delete the word rice and the brackets on the word commodities.
Delete rice.
And the brackets on the
And
word
bracket,
commodities.
so it will
yes.
become imported commodities.
Yes.
What does the sponsor say?
Rice lang. Tanggalin yung commodity.
Because the entire Republic Act, the entire law talks about commodities except rice. So we're now cleaning the law, the language itself, which includes rice now as a commodity.
Okay.
It is consistent, Mr.
Yes.
President.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Thank
Any
you.
objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same line, insert commas after the words including and to. On the same line, insert commas
A22.
after the words including and to.
Including the amount of imported
Including but
commodities.
not limited to.
Tama ba yan?
What is your
Including
amendment?
comma, but not limited to.
Yes, so a comma after
Lalagyan lang ng
including.
comma.
Yes.
All right, any objection?
Okay. Yeah, accepted.
Accepted, adopted.
The subparagraph shall now read as follows. Quantitative import restrictions refer to non-tariff restrictions used to limit the amount of imported commodities, including but not limited to discretionary import licensing and import quotas, whether qualified or absolute.
All right,
Okay.
for the record.
Yes, for the record.
Next.
Page 4. As an omnibus amendment, replace the words at the end of paragraph A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and M of section 3 with semicolons.
Section 3.
Accepted.
On page
Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On page 4, lines 14 to 19, renumber section 3 as section 4 and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Section 4 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended is hereby further amended to read as follows. Section 4, repeal the following laws and all other laws or provisions of
Tama
law
ba yun?
prescribing quantitative import restrictions or granting government agencies the power to impose such restrictions on agricultural products are hereby repealed.
What
And
page,
then-
what page are you?
On page 4,
Page 4?
Section.
on page 4, lines 14 to 19.
Remove
Removal of
Renumber
regulatory
section
function.
3
to
as
become
section 4
section 4.
and rephrase the entire section to read as follows.
Which one? Section 4?
Yes, section 4.
The entire section 3?
Yes, we're just rewriting it para for style, Mr. President.
Your Honor, you are repealing. Don't you think it should be in the repealing clause?
This is found in the repealing clause of 8178 is what we are amending. There is a repealing clause in Republic Act 8178, which this bill is amending. Okay? So in our section 4, it lists the laws that we are repealing. Okay? This is for style, Mr. President. And section 4 should now read as follows. Repeal the following laws and all other laws of provisions of law prescribing quantitative import restrictions or granting government agencies the power to impose such restrictions on agricultural products are hereby repealed. That is the intent of the
All
bill.
right, the intention, you are amending 8178.
Yes,
And this is not the repealing clause.
yes, that is correct.
All right, we just place that on record.
Yes.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On that section, there is a paragraph 8, which we are introducing, subparagraphs 1, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 22, 23, and 25 of Section 6, Paragraph A of Presidential Decree PD number 4 as amended.
Accepted.
Thank you.
And any objection? Amendment is adopted.
On the same page, lines 21 to 28, renumber Section 4 as Section 5 and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Subparagraph 4, Section 6, Paragraph A of PD number 4 as amended is hereby further amended to read as follows. Section 6, Administration Powers, Organization, Management, and Exemptions. The powers, organization, management, and exemptions of the authority shall be as follows. Paragraph A, powers. In order to effectively carry out its functions and responsibilities provided in this act, the authority shall have the following powers. And then, subparagraph 4. Under subparagraph 4, we're introducing an amendment here. For clarity, Mr. President, which should read as follows. To enter into, make, perform, and carry out contracts of every class and description necessary or incidental to the realization of its functions with other person, firm or corporation, private or public, or initiate contracts and or agreement in behalf of the industry between the Philippine government and any foreign government or institution with the exception of contracting loans or borrowing from domestic or foreign sources. That is the intent also of the committee report, but they just deleted it. We are putting it explicit.
Yeah.
Na
Accepted.
bawal na, yes.
Accepted?
Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? There being none, the amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 4, lines 30 to 35, to page 5, lines 1 to 3B, renumber section 5 as section 6, and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. A new section 5 is hereby inserted after section 4 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 5, issuance of sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance for rice. All importers of rice are required to secure a sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance, open close parenthesis SPSIC, from the Bureau of Plant Industry, open close BPI, prior to importation in accordance with existing laws, rules, and regulations, provided that failure on the part of the BPI to release the SPSIC without informing the rice importer of any error, deficiency, omission, or additional documentary requirement shall mean automatic approval of the SPIC applied for within 7 days after submission of the complete requirements. The imported rice should arrive before the expiration of the SPSIC from the BPI.
May dinagdag siya.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor, Madam Sponsor. On page 5, line 4, renumber section 6 as section 7.
Renumbering. So, placed on record.
Yes.
Adopted.
Accepted?
Yes, adopted.
Thank you. On the same page, lines 4 to 5, delete the commas between the words amended and is, and between the words amended and to.
Accepted.
Accepted. Adopted.
On the same page, line 10, delete the comma after the word act and the phrase as amended.
Delete.
Accepted.
Any objection?
Thank you.
Amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 15, add a letter S at the end of the word restriction.
Accepted.
Editorial amendment, any objection? Adopted.
Accepted.
On the same page, line 19, replace the word bound with the word tariff.
Quota tariff rate. What does the sponsor say?
That is the more appropriate term, Mr. President, yes.
Bound
In
tariff.
quota tariff rate.
Accepted.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same page, lines 23 to 28, rephrase the entire paragraph to read as follows. Paragraph B, for rice imports originating from ASEAN member states, the import duty rate under the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, ATIGA, open close parenthesis, shall apply, and
Pareho din yun eh. Accepted.
Semicolon and accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
on the same page, line 31, replace the word bound with the word tariff.
Accepted.
Accepted. And on any objection? Adopted.
On page 6, line 2, after the word commission, insert the phrase, and approved by the National Economic Development Authority, open close, NEDA, board.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Thank you.
Any objection? Adopted.
On the same line, after the word within, insert the phrase 45 and enclose the number 45 in parentheses.
Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
The new paragraph shall now read as follows. The calculated tariff equivalent shall be determined by the Tariff Commission and approved by the National Economic Development Authority Board within 45 days upon the effectivity of this act. Just a manifestation, Mr. President, of what was accepted.
We placed it on record.
Thank you. On page 6, lines 5 to 24, renumber section 7 of section 8 and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Section 8, a new section 7 is hereby inserted after section 6 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 7, powers of the President, consistent with the Philippine national interests and the objective of safeguarding Filipino farmers and consumers. The President is hereby empowered to act with full delegated authority in the following circumstances. A, the President may increase, reduce, revise, or adjust existing rates of import duty up to the bound rate committed by the Philippines under the WTO agreement on agriculture and under the ATIGA, including any necessary change in classification applicable to the importation of rice, provided that the power herein delegated to the President shall only be exercised when the Congress is not in session, provided further that any order issued by the President adjusting the applied tariff rate shall take effect 15 days after publication.
What does the
Okay
sponsor
lang
say?
yan? Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
Thank you. Paragraph B, in the event of any imminent or forecasted shortage or such other situation requiring government intervention, the President is empowered for a limited period and or a specified volume to allow the importation at a lower applied tariff rate to address the situation. Such order shall take effect immediately and may be issued even when Congress is in session. End.
Accepted.
C,
What does the sponsor, any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
paragraph C. In case the calculated out-quota tariff rate referred to under Section 6, Paragraph C of this Act exceeds 100%, the provision of subparagraph 1, Section 1608, Paragraph A of the CMTA shall not apply.
What does the sponsor say?
Yeah. Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? There being none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, insert a new Section 9 to read as follows. Section 9, a new Section 7A is hereby inserted after the new Section 7 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 7A, Trade Negotiation Authority. In the interest of the Philippine rice industry and Philippine consumers, and upon the recommendation of the NEDA and the DA, the President may enter into trade negotiations or renegotiations of the Philippine international trade commitments on rice.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On page 7, lines 1 to 3, renumber section 8 as section 10 and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Section 10, a new section 8 is hereby inserted after the new section 7A of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 8, maintenance of rice buffer stock. The NFA shall, in accordance with rules, regulations, and procedures to be promulgated, maintain sufficient rice buffer stock.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Accepted. No objection. Adopted.
Thank you. On the same page, a new section 11 shall be inserted after section 10 to read as follows. Section 11, a new section 9 is hereby inserted after the new section 8 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 9, lifting of quantitative export restrictions on rice. Any and all laws, rules, regulations, guidelines, and other issuances imposing quantitative export restrictions on rice are hereby repealed. The exportation of rice shall be allowed in accordance with established rules, regulations, and guidelines.
Any
Okay yan?
sponsor?
Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 9, renumber section 9 as section 12.
Renumbering. Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same line, replace the number 9 with the number 10. And after the word inserted, delete the comma and insert the phrase after the new section 9 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Thank you. On the same
No
page,
objection. Adopted.
line 14, replace the letters RA with the acronym R period, A period, and insert the abbreviation NO before the number 8800.
Accepted.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
On the same page, line 15, enclose the phrase Safeguard Measures Act in quotation marks.
Quotation marks.
Accepted.
Accepted. No objection. Adopted.
Yes, and just to manifest on the record, section 12, a new section 10 is hereby inserted after the new section 9 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 10, Special Rice Safeguard. In order to protect the Philippine rice industry from sudden or extreme price fluctuations, a special safeguard duty on rice shall be imposed in accordance with Republic Act number 8800, otherwise known as the Safeguard Measures Act and its implementing rules and regulations.
Yes, for the record.
Thank you.
Accepted.
On the same page, line 18 to 19, renumber section 10 as section 13 and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Section 13, Section 7 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended is hereby renumbered as Section 11 and is amended to read as follows. Section 11, Mechanism for the implementation of minimum access volume. An equitable and transparent mechanism for allocating the minimum access volume, open close parenthesis, MAV, of agricultural products whose quantitative restrictions are herein lifted shall be developed and established having the least government intervention, addressing the requirements of each geographical area and without entailing any cost to importers, users of these products to the detriment of local consumers and other end users. In the case of rice, its MAV will revert to its 2012 level at 350,000 metric tons, open close parenthesis, 350,000 metric tons, as indicated in the Philippine commitment to the WTO.
Accepted.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, line 21, renumber section 11 as section 14.
Renumbering. Any objection? There being none.
On the same line, after the word amended, delete the phrase by Republic Act 10848 and the comma.
Sponsor?
Accepted.
Accepted. No objection. Adopted.
On the same page, line 22, replace the phrase to become with the word as.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Accepted. No objection. Adopted.
On the same line, after the word is, delete the phrase further hereby and the comma after the word amended.
Accepted.
Accepted. No objection. Adopted.
On the same page, line 30A, delete the word rice.
Line.
Accepted.
Accepted.
On the same,
Adopted.
on the same page, line 33, replace a semicolon with a colon.
Accepted.
On the same
Accepted.
line,
Adopted.
on the same line, capitalize the first letters of the word provided and that, and italicize the word provided.
Accepted.
Accepted. No objection. Adopted.
The section shall now read as follows. Section 14, Section 8 of Republic Act Number 8178 as amended is hereby renumbered as Section 12 and is amended to read as follows. Section 12, Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. To implement the policy enunciated in this act, there is hereby created the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, herein referred to as the fund. The fund shall consist of all duties collected from the importation of agricultural products, except rice, under the MAB mechanism, including unused balances and collections from repayments from loan beneficiaries, including interest, if any. The fund shall be automatically credited to special account 183 in the general fund of the National Treasury, provided that fund release shall not be subject to any ceiling by the Department of Budget and Management. So
Yes,
that's
for the record.
yes, thank you. Now comes to the one of the most important parts of the bill, Mr. President.
And this is what page?
We are now on page 8.
Ito na yon.
Ito ba yun? Show me what page here. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, pero gusto niya pa yung may additional.
Okay. Mr. President, this representation prepared 3 options
Naku,
to what
mo
to do
nabasahin, ang haba.
with the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. But following the proposal also of the sponsor, Mr. President, this is one of the most important parts of the bill. But before I propose the amendment, may I ask the good sponsor just a few questions on this issue?
Yeah. Gladly, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, how much do we expect to collect from the tariffication?
8 to 12 billion pesos
8 to 12 billion pesos.
A year?
a year.
Okay. There are studies that show, Mr. President, that it is possible, because of a 35% tariff rate, that you could probably collect 15 all the way up, according to PIDS, the think tank of NEDA, anywhere from 15 to 30 billion pesos, Mr. President. Now, what is the purpose of this tariffication bill? The initial purpose of the tariffication bill is to reduce the price of rice for consumers. Isn't that correct, Madam Sponsor?
Hindi tama.
Mr. President?
Can you repeat your question, Mr.
Yes.
President?
Isn't it that the purpose of this bill, the initial purpose, is to reduce inflation in rice, to reduce the price of rice, to benefit Filipino consumers? That is one objective of this
Yes,
measure.
yes,
Is that
yes.
correct?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yes. So, and I agree. And in fact, I am the principal author of the measure as the first one who filed this
I
tariffication
just want
bill.
to explain that aim of the bill is because the other countries are producing rice lower than our costs. So if we're going to import, even if we exact tariff on them, we will be able to sell the rice lower than what we are selling now.
That is correct. And it is a no-brainer that if we import, bababa ang presyo ng bigas. And that will help lower inflation. Now, the second purpose of the bill, Mr. President, is that whatever we collect from the tariff at that rate of 35%, na sa tingin ko mababa, although we agreed already, we have an international agreement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, a 35% rate, that whatever we collect, we use now to increase productivity and to help our farmers cope with the competition. Isn't that correct, Mr. President?
That's correct. That's why we're creating the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. Yeah.
Okay.
RCEP.
Now, for example, what if the collection, and in the proposal, and I don't blame the sponsor of the measure, I love the proposal of the sponsor of this measure. What if, in the bill, there is an allocation of 10 billion yearly for the next 6 years, for a total of 60 billion. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, now, what if our collection is 15, 20 billion a year, and in the next 6 years, it is 120 billion?
I stand by the computation that it will be 8 to 12 billion. I think there's a misconception why they projected a higher collection. And besides, the 8 to 12 billion is assuming they will all pay taxes. There is that, what do you call this, chance that we will not be able to collect considering the performance of our Bureau of Customs. So I think 10 billion is a very reasonable amount. It will be given every year in spite of the collection, whatever they collect. And I think it will be good for our local farmers that they are assured that they will be given 10 billion a year to enhance their competitiveness against the imports.
Yes. Mr. President, my position is this, simply put, okay? Let's start with this issue. I am in favor of giving them 10 billion a year for the next 6 years, as proposed by the gentle lady in the committee report. I have no problem with that, Mr. President. But what if the collection is, let's say, 15 billion every year, and it becomes 90 billion in 6 years? What do we do with the 30 billion?
It will go to the general fund, and I think it will not be wasted because it will go to our government.
Yes. Now,
And
having
at
said
least
that,
the farmers are assured that they have 10 billion a year starting next year. There is no more computation.
okay.
It's assured that we will be
well-
given 10 billion a year every year for the next 6 years. And after 6 years, it can be reviewed. But maybe we can increase it. The next Congress will determine if it is reasonable that we increase the 10 billion a year.
Okay. My proposal, Mr. President, is this. Simply put, I agree with the gentle lady. O sige, let's allocate 60 billion. But if the collection is much, much more, and it becomes 70, 80, 90, 100 in the next 6 years, or 120 for that matter, I understand where the gentle lady is coming from. It goes to the general fund. But that will be commingled with all the others. Hindi ba ang usapan dito with the executive in the beginning is that whatever we collect from the duties, we give back to the farmers?
Yeah, but we are not assured that we will be collecting more than 60 billion in 6 years. So this is good because we are assured that we will have 60 billion in 6 years.
Yes, and I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that, on the 60 billion. So kung ang collection is short by 60, we are still at 60. All I'm saying is that if it is more than that, shouldn't we give that to the farmers as well? Because the bigger the collection, the bigger the hit to the farmers. Isn't that correct?
From our experience, managing the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, which was passed sometime in the late 1990s, up to now, they only have allocated 13 billion for all these years. So I don't think they will be giving us more than 60 billion. So I'm just making it simple for everybody that we have now, we are assured of the 60 billion and we will have it and it will be given next year from the General Appropriations Act. Then the farmers will surely have the money or the money to help them to be competitive as soon as possible, because there is a need to make the farmers competitive as soon as possible, because we are in the age of liberalization of importation of rice. We cannot afford to delay our program to make our farmers as competitive as possible in the nearest possible time.
And that is what we are doing, Mr. President. I am not delaying anything. All I'm saying is that the more the collections, the bigger the hit to the farmers, and now we should have more resources to assist our farmers. That's all I'm saying, Mr. President. And that's why we would be proposing that we will respect the 60 billion allocation, but if the collection is more, we still give it back to the farmers, and we will add to the menu. Because right now, in the proposal, which I agree with, I may not totally agree with the percentages, but I will respect it,
And then,
that there is rice farm machinery and equipment, that is fine with me. There is
ayan na, alis.
rice seed
I call
development,
it to a
propagation, and
vote,
promotion, and that is fine with me. There is expanded rice credit assistance, that is fine with me. Rice extension services, that is okay with me also. But anything
Can I,
more, if I may finish, Madam Sponsor,
alis na yung bobo.
if there is anything more that beyond the 60 that government will collect, bakit hindi natin ibibigay sa farmers? Idagdag naman natin sa, halimbawa, compensation to farmers who will be affected. Because based on our studies, 50% of the income of farmers will get hit. That is one.
We understand the plight of our farmers more
Yeah.
than anybody else. I think the government or our executive department offered this so that it will be simpler. And we are accepting this proposal or this proposal because we want to make it as simple as possible. We get the money as soon as possible, and then we help the farmers as soon as possible. Can we take this into a vote? If who will agree that we will take up the simple way of doing things or making it more complicated, and then it will affect the implementation of the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. Mr. President, can we take it into a vote?
Mr. President, this does not complicate anything. All I'm saying is that if we collect more than 60 billion, shouldn't we give that to the farmer and add to the possible menu? Halimbawa, rice farmer financial assistance, like a compensation to our farmers. Titling for agricultural rice land as part of the menu. Expanded crop insurance. A crop diversification program. Halimbawa, yung rice farmer, alam na niyang hindi
We
na siya
have that,
kikita.
Mr.
If I may finish, Madam Speaker. Halimbawa, crop diversification. Kung hindi na siya pwede magtanim pa ng palay at gusto niya lumipat sa pagtanim, bakit hindi natin gagawin din yon? So that's all I'm saying, Mr. President. So we are not changing the allocation. We're saying, in effect, I'm just making a bet that I think we will collect more, and if we don't, the 60 billion is respected. Nothing is lost.
This 10 billion, Mr. President, is a compromise. I think the executive department is making it more simple for us. And I believe if we make it more complicated, then there will be problem pa dito in the future.
Mr. President, I disagree with the term complicated because We're not making anything complicated here, Mr. President.
You know, if you review the performance of the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, which is just like the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, which was established in the late 1990s, up to now there is no computation on what they have collected in the Agricultural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. If we will wait for them to make the computation, it will never come. So why not take the 10 billion a year and give the benefit to the farmer as soon as possible and make it simple?
We agree with that, Mr. President. Our amendment does not propose not to give the 10 billion every year, 60 billion. All we're saying is that kung lumampas, and the more the collection, the more the hit the farmers get, shouldn't we give it to the farmers as well? That's all we're saying, Mr. President. And we're adding also to the menu, in effect. Huh?
Mr. President.
Because, for example, while I agree with rice farm machineries and equipment, Mr. President,
I think I just want to make the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund simple so that the government will give us the 10 billion a year because that is the promise. If we make it more complicated, then I think the implementation will be very difficult for us. So, Mr. President, I want to take this to a vote. If you will outvote me or you will outvote our gentleman from Batangas. So can we
I
take
just wanted to put on record my observations, and I don't mind losing the vote, but I think that the proposal is worth looking at, Mr. President.
All right. With the manifestations of the distinguished lady and the gentleman, unfortunately, there's nothing to vote on yet.
We are voting on whether we will provide that we will accept the 10 billion a year to be implemented, yung Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, or we will make a more difficult process of trying to compute what is the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund and then trying to allocate that. I mean, that is we have done it in ASEP and it's a very difficult process that we did not succeed.
Your Honor, I know what you're saying. What I am saying is there is no proposed amendment yet. He's just asking you
there are two
if there is a system that
subject to style.
But he has not proposed it as an amendment
yet. No, he's proposing
that
we will compute the
I have not heard any proposed amendment that he is proposing it as an amendment. He is saying his opinion. Now, may we ask Senator Recto, are you proposing that as an amendment?
That is a policy issue that we mentioned. It is we can now propose the amendment, Mr. President, which we can vote on.
Yes, once you propose the amendment, then we can vote on something. But we cannot vote on anything that has not been proposed yet.
All I did was to explain the nature of the amendment.
Oh, can you make the proposal now?
Yes. Okay. Okay. So, option 1, Mr. President.
All right.
On page 8, lines 1 to 30, until page 10, line 22, renumber section 13 as section 15, and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Section 15. A new section 13 is hereby inserted after the renumbered section 12 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended. To read as follows. Section 13. I think we have it also in the board, no?
Yes.
Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. There is hereby created a Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, herein referred to as the Rice Fund. The Rice Fund shall consist of an annual appropriation of 10 billion pesos for the next 6 years, following the approval of this act, and shall be automatically credited to a special account in the general fund of the National Treasury, which shall be in place within 90 days upon the effectivity of this act. At the end of the 6th year, a mandatory review shall be conducted by the Congressional Oversight Committee on Agricultural and Fisheries Modernization, COCAFAM, to determine whether the rice fund and its use as provided for under this act shall be continued, amended, or terminated. The Secretary of Agriculture. So this is also another important issue. The Secretary of Agriculture shall administer the rice fund and shall, in coordination with other government agencies concerned, promulgate the policies and guidelines for planning, administration, coordination, and monitoring of the utilization of the fund. The amount allocated shall be released directly to the implementing agencies as provided for in this act, provided that the unutilized portion of the rice fund allocated to the implementing agency shall not revert to the general fund, but shall continue to be used for the purpose for which it was set aside. Fund releases charged against the rice fund shall not be subject to any ceiling by the DBM. Any program undertaken in accordance with this act shall only be deemed complementary and supplementary to and shall not be a replacement of any existing programs for rice and rice farmers already implemented by the Department of Agriculture, DA, and other agencies concerned. Subject to the usual accounting and auditing rules and regulations, the rice fund shall be allocated and disbursed to rice-producing areas as follows. A. Rice farm machineries and equipment. A portion of the rice fund shall be released to and implemented by the Philippine Center for Post-Harvest Development and Mechanization, PhilMec, as a grant in kind to eligible farmers associations, registered rice cooperatives, and local government units in the form of rice farm equipment such as tillers, tractors, seeders, threshers, rice planters, harvesters, irrigation pumps, small solar irrigation, repairs, dryers, millers, and the like, for purposes of improving farm mechanization, provided that PhilMec shall, whenever feasible, procure from accredited local manufacturers to assist in the promotion of locally manufactured farm machineries and equipment. B. Rice seed development program and promotion. A portion of the rice fund shall be released to and implemented by the Phil Rice Research Institute and shall be used for the development, propagation, and promotion of inbred rice seeds to rice farmers and the organization of rice farmers into seed growers, associations, and or cooperatives engaged in seed production and trade. C. Expanded rice credit assistance. A portion of the rice fund shall be made available in the form of credit facility with minimal interest rates and with minimum collateral requirements to rice farmers and cooperatives to be managed equally by the Land Bank of the Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines, DBP. And D. Rice extension services. A portion of the rice fund shall be made available for the extension services provided by PhilMec, PhilRice, Agricultural Training Institute, ATI, and Technical Education and Skills Development Authority for teaching skills on rice crop production, modern rice farming, techniques, seed production, farm mechanization, and knowledge, technology transfer through farm schools nationwide, provided that preferential attention should be given to rice farmers, cooperatives, and associations adversely affected by the tariffication on the quantitative import restrictions on rice in accordance with the thrust and priorities of Republic Act Number 8435, as amended, otherwise known as the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act and the Philippine Development Plan. Provided further that if the annual tariff revenues from rice importation exceeds 10 billion pesos in any given year within the 6-year period following the effectivity of this act, the excess tariff revenue shall be earmarked as follows. Rice farmer financial assistance. A portion of the excess rice tariff revenue shall be released to the DA and shall be used for providing direct financial assistance to rice farmers as compensation for the projected reduction or loss of farm income arising from the tariffication of the quantitative import restrictions on rice. B. Titling of agricultural rice land. A portion of the excess rice tariff revenue shall be released to the Department of Agrarian Reform, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and Land Registration Authority, and shall be used for the subdivision and titling of agriculturized lands or parts thereof awarded to farmer beneficiaries under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program and other similar programs of the government. 3. Expanded crop insurance program on rice. A portion of the excess tariff revenue shall be released to the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation and shall be used for the provision of crop insurance to qualified rice farmer beneficiaries under its existing agricultural insurance programs. And 4, crop diversification program. A portion of the excess tariff revenue shall be released to the DA and shall be used for productivity enhancement programs for rice farmers seeking to diversify production towards other crops. The Congressional Oversight Committee on Agricultural and Fisheries Modernization, COCAFAM, shall conduct a periodic review of the use of the rice fund. Mr. President, in the meantime, may I ask for a minute suspension?
Session is suspended.
Gagawin mo na yun.
Session is resumed. Before the break, before the suspension, the President Pro Temp, Senator Ralph Recto, proposed an amendment that was read into the records. And the sponsor has not accepted nor not accept the amendment yet. But it is on record. So I am informed that there are members who wish to speak on the matter.
Mr. President,
Senator
Senator
Villar.
Chis Escudero will make the amendment.
Will address the amendment. Senator Chis Escudero is recognized.
Another amendment, which we will accept.
Hindi, anyway.
Minute suspension, Mr. President.
All right, session suspended. Yeah. Hello. Session.
I-restore lang natin percentages. And then, whatever excess in revenue, from the
Okay. Hindi DA, ha?
Session is resumed.
Mr.
Again,
President.
Yes, Senator Cheese Escudero is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I propose an amendment to the proposed amendment of Senator Recto before it is put to a vote, Mr. President, if the gentleman would be willing to accede?
We will listen to your proposed amendment.
Ralph,
Senator
umuwi ka
Recto?
naman, willingly.
Yes, willingly, Mr. President. I think there is a meeting of the minds, Mr. President.
Now, Mr. President, for reference purposes and to be clear, I'm referring to the version of Senator Ralph contained in his option 1, which he read earlier. And I'll be basing my proposed amendments to his amendments on this document. On page 13, delete lines 1 to 6. Omnibus na lang to.
Mr. President, yes, just one point before we act on this. The constituency of the Agriculture Department, the biggest constituency, are the rice farmers and the coconut farmers. If the Secretary of Agriculture has no say in this fund, then what job does he have left? And that is the problem if we keep on destroying the Agriculture Department, Mr. President.
Mr.
And that's
President.
why I said that the person responsible should be the Secretary of Agriculture. The biggest constituency of the Agriculture Department and the Secretary are the rice farmers and the coconut farmers, which make up probably 70% or more of the constituency of the Agriculture Department. So if we are saying that the Secretary of Agriculture has no accountability, no responsibility, then what is he there for?
Mr. President, Your Honor, my father served as Minister of Agriculture and Secretary of Agriculture twice between two presidents. While I agree with the distinguished proponent of the amendment, I think precisely we have seen good and bad secretaries of agriculture, both present or in the past, and that is why we are even providing for a menu and not leaving it to the hands of any sitting Secretary of Agriculture to decide how to dispense the fund. So any such administration of the fund will still be subject to the menu we will be giving him anyway. And at the end of the day, it's Congress that will appropriate it. And the participation, if any, of the Secretary of Agriculture would be through the submission, if at all, of his budget proposal when the NEP is submitted to the House, which Congress will deliberate upon and in its wisdom pass upon it if it agrees with it.
So, in
or
effect,
not.
we are saying here that the Secretary of Agriculture will have no say whatsoever as far as accountability is concerned. He will not have to sign a single document.
He will not have to sign a single. As I understand it, even with the proposal of the good gentleman, the funds will be directly released to the implementing agencies.
Which are under the Secretary of Agriculture.
Precisely.
So he should be able to manage those departments, manage the funds in those departments. Yes, he will spend it the way Congress says how to spend it, but he should be the one accountable, Mr. President. And that's why we propose here, the Secretary of Agriculture shall, could we put it in the page, please? The Secretary of Agriculture shall administer the rice fund and shall, in coordination with other government agencies concerned, promulgate the policies and guidelines for planning, administration, coordination, and monitoring of the utilization of the fund.
May I request for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session is suspended.
ka na umalis. Ayun. Sige na. Huwag mo nang guluhin yon. Okay na yon.
Are we ready to resume? Session is resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I withdraw my earlier amendment to the proposed amendment on page 13, line 1, and in lieu thereof propose the following. Delete the proposed amendment found in page 13, lines, I'll just read it all together because it's difficult, Mr. President. I'm trying to wing it.
Yes.
Delete the entire paragraph found in lines 1 to 6 on page 13, and in lieu thereof insert the following. The Secretary of Agriculture shall be accountable and responsible for the Rice Fund and shall, in coordination with other government agencies concerned, promulgate
Accepted.
as follows.
Accepted.
On
Promulgate.
page 13,
Yeah.
line 31, restore the percentage found in lines 31 and 32.
Accepted.
On page 14, line 25, restore the percentages in the
Accepted.
proposed measure.
Amendment.
And then,
On page 15, lines 1 and 2, restore also
Accepted.
the percentage found therein. On page 15 still, letter D, line 10, restore the percentage.
Accepted.
And on lines 13 to 14, insert
Saan yun?
percentages attached to, same page,
Yes.
from the 10% found on line 10, attach percentages subject to style as follows: 10%
okay.
of the 10% found in line 10 to Filmec, 10% to Philrice, 10% to ATI, and 70% to TESDA.
Accepted, Mr. President. But just one clarification. With regard to page 14, the percentage with regard to the farm machinery of 50% is accepted, but it will still follow the same language that provided that on page 14, line 9, provided that the Filmec shall, whenever feasible, procure from accredited
Yes.
local.
And the deletion of the later line.
Yes, that's correct. So not the later percentages, yes.
Yes.
Accepted. And for paragraph D, accepted.
And on page 16, line 5, after the word earmarked, insert the phrase by Congress.
shall
With
be
a heavy
earmarked
heart,
by Congress
accepted.
as follows. All right. All right.
For my chairman of the party, Mr. President.
So those are the proposed amendments of Senator Escudero to the amendment of Senator Recto. And therefore, it has become a different amendment as proposed now to the sponsor. What does the sponsor say? As amended.
We accept the amendment as amended. Ano ba
Thank
yun?
you.
Accepted. Any objection? Chair hears none. Amendment is adopted.
Nasaan na ba tayo? Teka, where are we now? What page?
We're on page,
Okay.
page
What page are
10.
we now?
Oh, 10, 11 na.
Okay, teka.
Page 11. Page 11.
29 dito. Ha? Madali naman tayong kausap, pare. Dito na. Okay. Okay. Mr. President, just to finish the amendments, konti na lang to, Mr. President. On page 10, lines 24 to 31, to page 10A, line 35F, renumber section 14 as section 16, and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. Section 16. A new section 14 is hereby inserted after the new section 13 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 14, beneficiaries of the Rice Fund. The beneficiaries of the Rice Fund shall be those farmers and farm workers and their dependents listed in the registry system for basic sectors in agriculture, RSBSA, open close parenthesis, and rice cooperatives and associations accredited by the DA. Within 180 days from the effectivity of this act, the DA, in consultation with the farmers' cooperatives and organizations and LG, shall validate and update the master list of eligible beneficiaries to ensure that those listed are legitimate farmers, farm workers, and rice cooperatives and associations.
We wish to clarify that we will do it by provinces and towns. We will have a list of the rice-producing provinces.
That's fine.
And the towns-producing provinces.
That's correct.
And we find the cooperative, the association.
That's correct.
And if there are no cooperative or association
Yes.
in that town, we give it to the local government units.
Yes.
So is that manifested?
Yes.
All right. So what does the sponsor say to the proposed amendment?
Yes,
Accepted.
but we are adding the,
Yeah.
what I said before.
That it
I
be,
think-
That's a
Yeah,
clarification.
I think that's a manifestation.
That is a
As part of the record, Mr. President.
because you have explicitly mentioned the local government anyway.
Yes.
Ano?
Yes,
Okay,
because if
all
there
right.
are no cooperatives and
yeah.
association of farmers, then we have to go to the local government.
Yes, local government. Senator Drilon, the minority leader is recognized.
Inquiry, parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President. The good sponsor has mentioned that there will be a listing of provinces,
Towns,
towns, etc.
yes.
Is this being introduced as an amendment, Mr. President?
No,
It's a
this,
manifestation.
No, it's a manifestation because
Yeah.
it's already covered on line 13 in the mention of,
meron ba?
No, Mr. I hope that the President is correct. But my understanding,
That is an
there's a
addendum.
bracket.
my understanding is that there will be some sort of an annex
Yes.
where there is a listing of all the
Meron, di ba?
rice-producing provinces where the cooperatives, etc., will be listed by province, and in the absence of such farmers' cooperatives, the LGUs will be the one tapped to administer this fund.
Is
Or
that
do we
a
say-
correct understanding, Madam
Yes,
Sponsor?
that was a manifestation that our good gentleman from Iloilo made before. That's why I'm manifesting again that we will do that.
Would you like to include that into the
Yes.
particular?
Yes.
Because it was
Subject to
introduced-
style.
Because it was being introduced as an amendment,
all right.
otherwise it will never
But
find
hindi
its way
All right.
in the bill.
So,
Rice-producing provinces and local government. We will include that in the amendment subject to style.
all right, subject to style, the manifestation of the distinguished lady is an amendment to the proposed amendment of Senator Ralph. And
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I do not know what is subject to style. Is it an enumeration of the provinces?
No,
The-
attach. There will be an attachment of
Correct.
the...
If there is an attachment, then this must be formally introduced as an amendment.
Yeah, that's why.
all right, can we do that?
Yeah.
Maybe, Mr. President, we can do it one by one. I think there is no problem in the meantime as far as
Nasaan yun?
our amendment is concerned.
We will...
And if the sponsor would like to attach later on or do a committee amendment or an individual amendment, she's free to do that later on.
All right, that will be a better solution, so that we do not disturb the proposed amendment that you have manifested. Will the sponsor accept that? You can propose your amendment afterwards.
Okay.
All
I
right.
can read. I can read now. Or you
Uh,
want...
In what particular place would
you
you like
want
to
the
read it?
attachment. So we will prepare the attachment.
Yeah, you can prepare it after
Yes.
this
We can
amendment. All
do
right.
it
Yeah.
later on.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what do you say to the sponsor, to the proposed amendment?
We accept. Yeah. We accept.
Accept?
Thank you.
Accepted? Any objection?
Yeah,
There
just
being
a-
none, amendment is
Just
adopted.
a few more, Mr. President. On page 10, paragraph A, insert new section 17.
Meron pa siya.
After the renumbered section 16 to read as follows. Wait 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. On page 11, on page 11, lines 2 to 26, renumber section 15 as section 18.
All right.
And rephrase the entire section to read as follows. A new section 15 is hereby inserted after the new section 14, paragraph A of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 15, Rice Industry Roadmap. Upon the effectivity of this act, the DA, together with the NEDA, Department of Finance, DBM, DAR, National Irrigation Administration, TESDA, PCIC, and other government agencies concerned, including rice farmer representatives, shall be given a maximum of 180 days to finalize the rice roadmap to restructure the government's delivery of support services for the agricultural rice sector. The following principles shall govern the development and implementation of the roadmap for the rice industry. 1. Raise sustainable investment in the rice industry, particularly on rice support infrastructure and post-harvest facilities. 2. Improve the productivity, efficiency, and profitability of small rice farmers and landless farm workers. 3. Strengthen research and development programs that will enhance the resiliency of the rice industry. 4. Preserve and enhance the rice production capabilities of future generations. 5. Provide accessible, targeted, and technology-oriented support services that cover the entire value chain. And 6. Set up responsible and effective governance mechanism.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
Last two amendments, Mr. President, on the same page, line 28 to 34, page 12, line 2, renumber section 16 as section 19, and rephrase the entire section to read as follows. A new section 16 is hereby inserted after the new section 15 of Republic Act number 8178 as amended to read as follows. Section 16, National Single Window Program to ensure the accurate collection of tariff as provided in section 16 of, as provided in section 6 of this act. The National Single Window, open close parenthesis, NSW program of the Bureau of Customs, BOC, open close, shall be implemented within 180 days from the effectivity of this act in accordance with Executive Order 482.
We accept.
Accepted. Senate, the minority leader is recognized.
Just a question for clarification. The way I understand it, the tariff collected will become part of the general fund.
Based on the amendment earlier, yes.
Yes. So what is the purpose of section
For us to be
16?
for us to be able to know how much was actually collected.
So just for monitoring?
For monitoring, plus the amendment to the amendment earlier, that Congress will appropriate the excess.
For the
Excess than
Congress
10 billion.
That is correct.
Okay, but okay. Okay, no, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. President.
The sponsor is accepted. Any objection? There being none, the amendment is adopted.
Last two, on page 12, insert a new section 20 after section 19 to read as follows. Section 20, implementing rules and regulations. Within 90 days from effectivity of this act, the DA, NEDA, and DBM shall, in coordination with DAR, DNR, DSWD, DepEd, DOST, NIA, LRA, PCIC, PhilMec, PhilRice, TESDA, LBP, DPP, ATI, and other government agencies concerned, and after consultation with directly affected stakeholders, promulgate the rules and regulations to effectively implement the provisions of this act.
Okay. Accepted.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
I'm sorry?
Is that your last amendment?
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Could we delete DepEd from what I mentioned earlier because they have no part in this proposed measure? Kasi nasama yung DepEd kanina.
All right. We place that on record. DepEd
Yes,
is
thank
removed from the amended.
On the same page, renumber section 17, 18, and 19 as section 21, 22, 23 respectively.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Finally, amend the title of the measure to read as follows. An act replacing
Can make a manifestation. Can we Since the use of the menu of the use of the fund has been indicated, can we make the IRR shorter
Members
so
of
that
the
it can be
IRR.
implemented right away?
What do you mean shorter? The members or the...
90 days, why not make it 45 days?
Accepted.
All right, we go back to that particular proposed
Yeah,
amendment.
instead of 90
90 days, it's 45 days. With the consent of the chamber. Any objection? Chair hears none.
I heard
Amendment is adopted.
Okay. Finally, amend the title of the measure to read as follows. An act replacing the quantitative import restrictions on rice with tariffs, lifting the quantitative export restrictions on rice, and creating the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, amending for the purpose Presidential Decree Number 4 as amended, and Republic Act Number 8178 as amended and for other purposes.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept.
Accepted. Any objection? Adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to thank the distinguished sponsor of the measure for a job well done.
Same
Thank you.
here.
Our colleagues
May we now
for
entertain
their support.
the...
Thank you.
May we now entertain the amendment of the sponsor on the menu, the attachment, so that we need not go back to this and we can ask for a clean copy for tomorrow?
Nasaan na
Are
yung
you ready?
Yung amendment with the attachment, yung binigay mo sa akin kanina. Hindi, yung provision.
That is going to be found in page...
Yung provision na binigay mo sa akin, nabasahin ko. Bilisan mo. For a moment. Nasaan yun?
page 10 to 10A.
Okay.
10 to 10A.
Okay. Mr. President, in order to focus on the targeted rice farmer beneficiary, cooperative and association for the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, the list of rice-producing provinces and local government unit as provided for by PhilRice as of 2015 to 2018 shall be the basis and shall be added to the roadmap as an appendix together.
All right.
Yun na. Do you accept, Mr.?
No. That is your proposed amendment.
Yes.
We just want to know where particularly would you like to place it into the bill?
After the,
section before the rice industry roadmap or within?
it's beneficiaries and release of funds.
Okay.
Section
Section 14,
yes,
which
yes.
has been amended by Senator Recto to become section 16, I suppose. But anyway, the title is Beneficiaries and Release of Funds.
Okay.
So you would like to include that after after line 35F
Yes,
of
yes,
10A,
yes,
or subject to style.
yes.
All right, any objection? There being none, the amendment is adopted.
Okay.
Majority Leader? Are there any individual amendments?
Okay.
The Minority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, at yesterday's session, we submitted our proposed amendments to the good sponsor who said that generally it's acceptable. We were prepared to introduce them at this session, but the amendments of Senator Recto was given precedence. It is quite extensive. May we request that a clean copy be done
Okay.
so that we will look at the amendments. If our amendments are already covered, well and good. If not, then we will be introducing our amendments tomorrow after we see the clean copy.
We can request the Majority Leader to take this up first thing tomorrow
Yes.
afternoon.
Mr. President, as a matter of fact, I've already spoken to the Secretariat to prepare the clean copy immediately after the amendments of Senator Recto, so we can provide our colleagues with this clean copy.
All right,
For the meantime,
Secretariat is officially directed to make a clean copy for tomorrow.
may we
But,
ask, may we recognize Senator?
Senator Ontiveros is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President and Majority Leader. I'd just also like to make it of record that I also submitted my proposed amendments to the good sponsor, some of which was already put forward by Senator Recto earlier. But there are some additional ones that I'll be proposing tomorrow once we have received the clean copy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I believe Senator Joel has sent me a message that he would like to look at the clean copy as well, we propose a few amendments, one or two amendments. With that, Mr. President, just a few administrative matters. UK Gordo, we already transferred the bill to the Tourism Committee. Ito pinag-usapan natin sa Rules Committee. Yung pinasal dun sa Blue Ribbon, and he wants to take it up on the floor, but it's a tourism bill. So we're going to refer it to the tourism committee. So on other matters, Mr. President, with the, and this is in reference to Senate Bill number 1616, or an act amending Chapter 5, Section 85 of Republic Act 9583, otherwise known as the Tourism Act of 2009, under Committee Report number 169. The said measure was questioned under recently amended Rule 65, Mr. President, of our Senate rules. So on August 8, 2018, our committee, the Committee on Rules, conducted a meeting to deliberate the said matter. After discussions and consultations with the members of the Rules Committee, I believe Senator Dillon was there as well, our Minority Floor Leader, and several other members, the body agreed and recommended that Senate Bill number 1616 be transferred to the Committee on Tourism, and with the permission of the Chair, and I've already spoken to Chairman Binay of the said committee, a subcommittee to be chaired by Senator Gordon to hear and sponsor the report on the floor be created. With that, Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move that Senate Bill number 1616 be transferred to the Committee on Tourism. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
And Mr. President, I also move, after conferring with the chairperson of the Committee on Tourism, that a subcommittee be created to hear and sponsor Senate Bill number 1616. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Finally, Mr. President, I manifest that Senator Gordon be designated as the chair of the newly created subcommittee on Senate Bill number 1616.
Any objection? There being none, Senator Gordon is hereby designated as chair of the newly created subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the designation of the Senate BICAM panel for the disagreeing provisions on Senate Bill number 1280 and House Bill number 8374, Mr. President, this is amending the Corporation Code of the Philippines. May we designate already our conferees? I believe you have the list, Mr. President.
Yes, the following members are designated as conferees. The chairperson is Senator Frank Rilon, and members are Senator Angara and Villanueva.
Thank you, Mr. President. And with the permission of the body, I move that we proceed as well with the Senate President's designation of the conferees to the bicameral conference committee on the disagreeing provisions on Senate Bill number 1477 and 8239. This is promoting positive and nonviolent discipline.
Discipline.
Yes, sir.
The following members are hereby designated as conferees on the part of the Senate on the Bicameral Conference Committee. Senator Hontiveros as chairperson, and members Binay, Legarda, Po, Pangilinan.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I ask for a 1-minute suspension?
Session is suspended.
Baka ma-accuse na ako ng railroading. Thank you, wala pa pala. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. And
Session is resumed.
thank you, Mr. President. May we request Senator JV if he's, there's a BICAM report that he has to report out, Mr. President, really quickly. May I ask for another suspension so we can ask Senator JV to join us?
Session is suspended.
It's a House bill. After that, we can... So, i-accept na. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, we're in receipt of the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing votes on House Bill number 6740. This is an act entitled Upgrading the Labuan Public Hospital in Zamboanga City. I move to consider the bicameral conference committee report.
Any objection? There being none, consideration of the bicameral conference committee report is in order.
Mr. President, the chairperson, Senator J.V. Ercito, would like to just place the explanatory message of the bicameral conference report to the records of the Senate, Mr. President.
You are submitting the joint explanation?
That is correct, Mr. President.
on
He
the,
was just like, instead of having to report it out, he was just like that the record, the placed into record, the joint explanatory note.
All right, the explanatory note is placed into the record.
Mr. President, I move to adopt and ratify the bicameral conference committee report on the disagreeing votes on House Bill number 6740. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Yes, what's that? Yeah. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 5161. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, 5161's consideration is in order.
This is an act establishing the City of Prosecution Service and the City of Navotas. The status, Mr. President, is in the period of interpellation. No member would like to interpolate the said matter. We move that we close the period of interpellation, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, committee, the period of interpellation is closed.
Mr. President, I recognize the the chairperson of the said committee, Senator Angara, for possible amendments to the measure, Mr. President.
Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are no amendments. Thank you, Majority.
There are
Therefore,
no
we'd like to
amendments.
close the period of amendments, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Period of amendment is closed.
Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading House Bill number 5161. I so move.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The House Bill 5161 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Good, Sunny, okay na? Yeah, no worries. Tito Frank, anything else? Kinausap ko na. Yeah. All right, with that, Mr. President, I move that we adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wednesday, November 14th. I so move.
Any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, November 14, 2018.